Hi guys, Tom Morrison here, and I want to go over a bunch of different sports and things that can happen in injuries and performance-wise in a very general spectrum. So I'm going to exaggerate lots and stereotype lots, partly for comedic purposes, but also just keep it general, keep it lighthearted. This is just some random things that can happen to people, like Pepe. So let's talk about football first of all. Football, them guys have got some of the worst hips I have ever seen. They are always hurting their hamstrings or tearing their groin or knees and stuff like that. They don't seem to know how to use their hips in the right way. They just do a little run up and then a little run backwards. And then they go out and play for like 90 minutes at a time. Very first thing that's wrong with that is that's a lot of running. Nobody actually enjoys running. That is a myth. So, what they need to do, or what would really help them and benefit from, is to learn more about hip mobility and how to strengthen the entire hip joint as a whole, rather than getting caught up in the hamstring trap and always just stretching the hamstring, stretching the hamstring, stretching the hamstring. You'll make it weaker, and that will actually decrease your power output and your ability to have speed and stuff like that. So just because you can run around for a long time and you appear fit doesn't mean that you are going to be great for your sport, and the less you can be injured, the more you can play and the more you can grow and get better at the sport as well. So always think about strengthening the entire hip, and don't just focus on getting good at running by just running. It's not really going to do that well. In between sports as well, let's talk about general aches and pains that you may have. So if you're someone that is a bird just hit my window. If you're someone that is ridiculously tight and stiff, what you do need to start doing is working on stretching gradually every day. Not just having like one mobility day a week where you stretch like hell. It's just going to, one, you could hurt yourself, but two, there's no consistency there. Why does a diet work? If you do it for an extended period of time, if you eat healthy for an extended period of time, you will lose weight, or whatever the goal is. If you do the right thing for an extended period of time, you will get the results body composition wise. Same thing with mobility. If you are consistent with what you're doing and doing it every day, then you're going to get the results from it, rather than, so imagine you were trying to lose weight and you had McDonald's 5 out of the 7 days and the other 2 days you ate healthy. It's not going to work. So the same sort of way with mobility, you're not going to teach your body by doing something once a week. All the better to eat you with, snarled the wolf. The next thing we want to talk about is bodybuilding, and I don't mean proper bodybuilding. If you go to a professional bodybuilder and get trained by them, you will do great training. They will train all of your muscles in the right way. They'll make sure you're getting the correct amount of push and pull, and they will also be looking for symmetry, which is a very important thing. If, however, you think you do bodybuilding and you just go to a gym and follow a general fitness magazine program that will consist of like 3 sets of 12 biceps, 3 sets of 12 bench press, 3 sets of 12 incline press, 3 sets of 12 push-ups, all that there sort of stuff, that's going to start doing this to you. You're just going to be tightening here and here and here until you look like this. That is going to give you horrible shoulder problems and horrible neck problems, and yes, your muscles are going to get bigger. They're going to look bigger, but you're going to eventually have elbow problems, neck problems, shoulder problems, aches and pains, have to take time off, get annoyed, eat loads of Doritos, get fat. You're just going to go through this horrible cycle of never getting anywhere because you read a magazine and decided that that was the way stuff works. Stuff does not work. I fully believe in having coaches and things that have been tried and tested and work for people, and following the advice of people that know what they're doing in the specific thing that you want to do. You're going to get far more places by listening to someone's experiences and doing something for a long time, rather than trying to go it alone. Going alone, that's you dipping your toe in the water. You'll find that the most people that progress, they generally went it alone for a while, maybe years, maybe 1 or 2 years, 3 years even, and then went, I'm going to take a next step and get a coach, and then boom, they all of a sudden make loads of gains and are happy and awesome. So if you think you're doing bodybuilding training and you're not training with a proper bodybuilder, and I don't mean your mate Dave, I mean a proper professional bodybuilder that has competed in bodybuilding, then you're probably not doing great training. The other flip side of mobility is not being stiff at all and actually being too flexible, actually being like this. That is something that is very annoying and very dangerous as well, because if you're too flexible, you lose stability in a lot of your joints, and depending on where you are in that spectrum, you could either, one, be having lots of joint pain and things can feel grindy and awkward and horrible, and you just nothing ever feels right. You're pressing above the head, it feels icky. You're doing push-ups, it just feels icky. Everything feels icky. Icky's an awesome word. I love the word icky. So what you need more is joint stability work and core stability work, and that goes a long way in getting rid of your pain. The very high end of that spectrum there is hypermobility. You can have that in a single joint. So say that your shoulder was always getting bad and you're always stretching your shoulder because it made it feel better temporarily. So it gave you a little bit of relief at the time, and then you started overdoing it. You're going to make your own joint too mobile, and it's going to start having problems, and because it feels unsafe, it feels unstable, whatever, then it's going to give you that signal of pain to tell you that something's up. So that's where that signal of pain will come from. And if you misinterpret that, then you're going to start stretching more and just making it worse and worse until one day you just completely lose stability in it and it just goes pop, click, whatever, bad injury, oh no, and then you can get stuck in that cycle again, and then you can start to become the person that has a bad shoulder. I can't do that because I have a bad this. I can't do that because of my blah 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 blah. A lot of things can be, one, prevented, and two, rehabbed as well. So just look at like the best athletes in the world that have maybe been through an injury and even had to get surgery and stuff like that there, that get back to a competitive level again. There's no reason why you are a unique special snowflake that is just buggered because you hurt your knee once. You know, it's not the way it works. There is always things out there. People just give up very soon on themselves. The high end of that there is full joint hypermobility, full body hypermobility, which can be very bad. People would have just lots of pain just walking around. Their ankles would hurt, their knees would hurt, everything would hurt. Working on the muscles and stuff and stabilizing everything is a big key element there. Never ever neglect the athletic attributes of just balancing and running drills and sprinting drills and stuff like that there, learning all that stuff properly. The best athletes in the world work on all of those things. Like, you know, when's the last time you thought, I'm going to learn more about running? Why does everyone just assume that they do it? There's drills that people do to get better at that stuff, and doing some of them will really go a long way for you. Not that running's a good thing, just do the drills. You don't have to run. Powerlifting and strongman. Should I put them in the same bracket? They'd probably hate that. Well, that general kind of the full-on strength athlete, which I absolutely love and adore. It doesn't breed a lot of movement and rotational stuff. You are basically training yourself to be a block, which is cool. Like, no one can doubt that these guys are the strongest guys out there. But the very nature of the sport just makes your body turn into, like I said, this block. So you lose a lot of hip movement and a lot of rotational core sort of stuff. And a lot of them down the line run into a lot of back problems and injuries and stuff, just because the stronger, more dominant side starts to take over. So you imagine that most people would say that this is my stronger arm or whatever, I have a better leg and stuff like that there. If your training is always squats and deadlifts and just up and down, all the limbs working at the same time together, and bench press, both arms going at the same time together and stuff like that, and you never do any of the single leg, single arm stuff at all, then you're going to start pushing slightly sideways, slightly, you know, you're going to overuse certain muscles and stuff like that there, especially at 1 rep max time. That is when your body just throws everything out the window and goes, what's strongest, what's the least amount of resistance I can, you know, get through to get this weight up. It will pick everything that's stronger. So long term, you're talking all that stuff starts to, you know, show itself, and that's where you start getting real annoying aches and pains and stuff. And then the biggest trap to fall into is the foam rolling, which will reduce your symptoms, yes, because if something hurts and you hurt it more and then let it go, you go, it doesn't hurt as much now. It feels better. It must have fixed it. That's a very dangerous trap to fall into, because the pain is not necessarily a bad thing. Your body is trying to tell you something, and for you to just go, shut up, it's fine, and roll it out, that could be dangerous. So in my opinion, you're always best going to a proper therapist that knows how to look at muscles and see what's pulling from side to side. I said before that, say, my shoulder was tighter on the one side, so I was getting the symptoms on the other side because everything's being pulled over by this tighter side, so this side here was feeling worse. So what I was doing was beating the side up that was sore, and then this side just kept getting tighter and tighter and tighter. So the reason this side was sore is because it was feeling too loose, too weak. So what was I doing? Weakening it more. So then, you know, that's how you start to get these issues happening, because you going after the symptom rather than trying to find the cause is just not a good route to go down. So sorry to bunch you guys in together, but you're big jack dudes, don't hurt me. I've got big muscles too! Big muscles! And CrossFit. CrossFit isn't necessarily bad, it's just it takes a hell of a lot of all the aspects of mobility and strength and stability to be able to actually do it. So that's how it can get a bad name for causing injuries and stuff. The physical requirements to be able to do it are so high, and so few people actually have them that they're trying to do stuff that they're just not ready for. So for me to actually do CrossFit, it took probably, I would say, after hurting myself, I would say it took probably 3 years to be able to actually do a lot of the movements safely, purely due to mobility restrictions or stability, whatever. It's just a very, very physical, high demand. Now, if you're sensible with CrossFit, then it can be a great training program. If you avoid the stuff that you can't do and work on sensible progressions for that and eventually arrive at being able to do that, that's much more sensible rather than, say, jumping into snatching whenever you can't really overhead squat or something like that. It's being sensible about where you're at, taking the humble pill and saying, I'm not good enough for that yet, I need to work on these progressions 100 million bajillion times and then go to that. And that doesn't even just go for CrossFit, it goes for everything. Like, if you decide that you're better than you are, that's a recipe for disaster. So CrossFit, they still make you run, and I hate running. The other thing that you can have from a mobility standpoint or flexibility standpoint is you're doing too damn much. If you decide that you're doing all the right things and you're actually overstretching something, you're gonna get pain. You're gonna be the cause of your pain. You doing all the right things is the wrong thing. There is such a thing as stretching too much. If you're saying, oh, my hamstrings are always tight, and consistently stretching them all of the time and never strengthening them, then they're going to become weak and they're not going to work in the right way, and that's when you can start to get lower back pain and stuff like that there, and it's actually being caused by you, again, relieving the symptoms for a short period of time. So never assume that you know everything. Never assume that you know nothing. Always work on how you feel, and always give things a test phase and ride them out. You know, if you don't try something for at least 6 weeks, you can't just write it off. But I've done it for 3 days. I'm an expert now. No. The main thing is that you, no matter how flexible I ever am, or whatever things that have ever worked for me personally that I find, they are not going to work for everyone else, because everyone isn't me. You need to find out what works best for you. And again, like I said, if someone that is incredibly flexible and has never experienced any kind of mobility restriction in their life before is trying to tell you that, who's struggling with something like that this is a great exercise for them, it'll really fix things for them, it may not be. How do they know? How do they actually know what it feels like? And I always assumed that squats felt a certain way until I fully opened up my hips and stuff like that there, and squats were not meant to feel like that. But I thought, you know, because I didn't know any different, I thought that's the way it was. You know, your knees were supposed to crunchy, grindy, and, you know, cave in and all that there sort of stuff. It was like, you know, that's just how you squat. That's what squats do. Squats are bad for your knees, you know. But whenever, like, I finally opened everything up and understood